Guys, welcome back to Rack and Rock Chronicles, episode number 18. We hope that you are enjoying the season. We just have a few more episodes to go before we end this season and start fresh in 2021. But last episode, you saw the picture of my wife's doe, and because it wasn't a buck, obviously I wanted her to remember her very first deer with something. So our good friends over at Skull Scrapers did a nice European mount for me of her doe skull. That's the first ever deer she shot. So, again, congratulations, honey, and you'll remember it always. But getting back to this episode. So, this episode is a two-part series. And the reason it's a two-part series is this is the Pike County, Illinois hunt that Keith and I went on with B&D Outfitters out in Nebo. We have been looking forward to this trip since February, when everything happened with all the coronavirus and all this other stuff. You know, the first thing that popped into our head was we're not going to be able to go to Illinois on this hunt. But everything worked out. Illinois didn't try to do anything goofy with their out-of-state licenses. So we got our licenses, our tags, and we went out and spent 5 days, 7 nights in Pike County and Calhoun County, Illinois. And if you're watching the show and you're from the eastern United States, the East Coast, the Northeast, do we have big deer? Of course we do. But there is a ginormous size difference between Pennsylvania deer and Illinois deer. So part one, we're going to follow Keith on his tag out with 2's. And 2's is a deer that Scott and Craig have had on camera basically all summer long. And we hunted a property, one of their properties, that's a Mississippi River bottom. It's true river bottom at its finest. It gets flooded every year. Just an awesome setup, and things, you know, after the first day, you know, we got stands set up. We saw where stands were, so if we needed to move and whatnot, you know, we felt good, and we saw this big 8-pointer. The day after we got there, we were there, went out to this property and hung one stand because there was 3 other stands on the property, but there wasn't one covering the north side. So we had brought stands with us, said, hey, we'll go out and throw up a stand. And while we were setting up that stand, we saw this buck in a scrape. Just a big 8, that's all we knew. We can see him in glass. There's a camera where he happened to be, but we couldn't even go and pull the card because he was there. So we were excited. Big buck, shooter buck, 100%, ready to go. And the very first day in stand, I couldn't get into my stand for 45 minutes because I had deer standing next to it. Literally, my ladder was here and there was deer standing 5 feet away. So check out Keith's day, very first day in Pike County, see how it played out.
eyes are wide, and my hands are kind of shaking from some trouble that I got into. My tags are overdue.
Good, everybody's quiet.
Yes, that's what we're always saying. We like it when it's quiet. You know, everybody's eating.
Put the time out.
So aside from some squirrels, a raccoon, and some birds, and a doe, right at the end of the day, Keith was feeling, pretty bummed. After seeing a buck the day before, shooter buck, we figured, he's going to pass between either of us. One of us is going to get a shot at him. And nothing happened. So we regrouped, got in the truck, drove back to the lodge. And guys, let me explain something before I even go into what I was about to start. B&D, if you are planning a trip to Pike County, one, call B&D, talk to Scott, get your hunt booked. Two, if you're going to stay at B&D, go on a diet before you get there. I am pretty sure I gained, at least 10 pounds. Home cooked lodge meals, unbelievable. So anyway, getting back to it. So after dinner, we talked with Scott, who's the owner, and Craig, who's his guide. Gave him the lowdown on what happened, and unfortunately day one was pretty windy. So I knew for me the wind was blowing in the wrong direction. So after those deer were at my stand, when I was trying to get in it, I wasn't expecting to see a whole bunch the way the wind was blowing, and then it started swirling towards the end of the day. Keith, on the other hand, had the wind perfect for his setup, blowing directly at him, and the only thing that was behind him was the Mississippi River. So got a game plan together for day two. Check out and see what happens. Alright, so the morning of day two, as you saw, Keith's still not feeling real great about this setup. He had nothing all morning, not even a raccoon. So at about 11:30, I texted him. I said, hey, let's get to the truck, let's have some lunch, give the stands a breather a minute, and game plan for this afternoon. So there was a stand that Scott and Craig already had set up on this property that literally, if you spit or fell out of it, you were going to end up in the Mississippi River. Nice ladder stand, good setup, lot of traffic up and down the shoreline, and there is a pretty decent sized opening out in front of the stand. So I said, you haven't seen deer. I've seen deer, but they're just either out of range or I'm busting them out when I'm going into my stand. I said, why don't you move to that ladder stand and sit the afternoon and see what happens? So that's the game plan, right?
This could be interesting. Could do some bow fishing from the tree stand.
Well, after a few hours, I texted him and said, have you seen anything? He said, I saw a small buck across the river on the other bank. Now this isn't, we're not talking like the gigantic portion of the Mississippi. Just happens to be a little outlet. So, you know, it's maybe 40 yards across. Little buck had come out on the other side. I said, anything else? He said, I saw a coyote, and that's it so far. I said, okay. Now, from that stand to get back to the truck was a little bit of a walk. So, Scott, this portion is for you, so I hope you're watching. So, Scott gave me crap about this, and I was laughing about it, and it's just the way I grew up hunting. But I said at about 5:15, why don't you crawl out of the stand and start making your way back to the truck, so you're out here before it's, you know, pitch black. So as I'm starting, it's about 10 after 5, I'm starting to unpack the camera equipment into my bag, get my bow, you know, get my arrow out of my bow, get everything down so I can get out of the stand. And I get a text from Keith, says, I just had a doe walk directly under my stand. I said, okay. He said, I'm going to sit for 5 or 10 more minutes. No problem. Well, as I'm finally lowering my stuff to the ground, I get a phone call. And if we're calling each other and we're in the stand, something happened. Well, guys, as you saw it, that doe that walked underneath Keith's stand and followed along the water edge must have just been spring enough for 2's to get a whiff of her. 2's came in on a string to Keith from about 60 yards out and stopped with a perfect broadside shot at 25 yards. So not only was 2's a great shooter buck, it's also the very first buck Keith ever shot with his bow. So to have not only him with me as part of the team, but as my brother-in-law, and to be able to share that was awesome. So basically we gave a call to Scott and Craig and said, hey, Keith shot one. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to hang out here? Do you want us to leave? And in the camera, it was real hard. The shot looked just 100%. But on the camera screen, it was super hard to tell. It was getting dark. So we decided we were going to get in the truck and head back to the lodge. Well, we did. Got the shot up on big screen. Saw that Keith was dead on. Couldn't have placed a better shot. So Scott and Craig, myself and Keith jumped back in Craig's truck, ran back down to the property, and put a track on to find 2's. Well, 2's didn't go very far. Here we go, right here. Look at this stud.
Holy smokes, good deal, man.
That slammer. Good deal. This is 2's, right, Craig?
That's 2's.
We saw him on Tuesday when we were scouting.
Right here, right where he
Right
died.
here.
Right there.
Yeah, trail camera's really right there behind it. He is a slammer. Put us right on him, Craig and Scott.
Congratulations, man. So you come out here for
This is my
right
biggest
there.
buck yet. First buck with the bow. Couldn't be happier. Good deal, man. Got good mass. He's even got some fresh on. You can see he's been rubbing a little bit. Big 9-pointer. It's a slammer. Hey guys, it's Keith. We're going to do a little update here from my deer hunt last night. At this point, you can see the footage. You know, I shot at a big 9-point. We call them 2's. We were successful. I dropped out of there after I shot about 15 minutes. After I shot, he ran across that opening. It's about 60-65 yards to the other side, and then he stopped there for a little while. So I didn't want to make any more extra noise by doing a download after the hunt. on the camera, just in case he came out and gave me another opportunity, like for a finishing off shot. I knew I made a good shot on the first one in the stand. I quick looked at the footage just to follow up to see how it was after he went a little bit farther after that. I felt good about the shot. It sounded good with the impacts. It wasn't too far, so I felt good about it. So once we talked to Craig and Scott, they wanted me to just get my stuff, sneak out of there, because I was about 300 yards down, had to go up around, probably about almost a half a mile from the truck, probably by the time I got all the way down and around and out of there. So I wanted to get out of there. It's 45 minutes to drive back to camp. Drove back to camp, got Scott and Craig, and then we got our stuff together and we went back out there after dark, and we tracked up on them. And at that point you can see some of the footage when we actually got up on them. We took pictures, did all that stuff. And so by the time we got back, it was late. It was after 11. Then we ate dinner when we got back here. So it was pretty long night, very successful night, super pumped, awesome deer. We scored them out earlier this morning. Craig scored him. He should be right around 140, 141, right in that ballpark, you know, for a rough score, you know, not official by any means, but right there, super pumped. Biggest buck I've ever shot. First buck I actually shot with the bow, so it was pretty big, pretty high standards, bigger than anything I've even shot with the rifle. So super pumped about that. Glad made a good shot. Everything came together. We found him, got him out of there. He was in some real thick stuff. He went through a bunch of thick stuff. He actually wasn't in too bad of stuff when we actually found him, but we had to go through a bunch. They call these cocker burrs they have down here. They're like a football shaped sticker ball, and they get over everything. I had fleece on. I actually changed my stuff out because my sitting stuff was fleece, and I walk through that and you have like 150 of them on you, and they're sharp, picky. They suck. That's the worst part about the hunt, is those stupid sticker bushes, or cocker burrs as they call them. So super pumped. Trip was awesome. We did real good. Greg's out right now, and he did text me a little while ago that he got a shot on a nice buck, so we'll be coming back to you later with that. I'm going to be heading out of here with Scott once he comes back. Once Greg gets back here, we're going to go back out. We were on a different piece today than we've been hunting the previous 2 days. Figured to give that spot a break after we got a deer out of there, and we were tromping through there last night. So obviously it paid off. Greg got a shot on a deer, so we'll go check up with that. But overall, this has been an awesome trip. I'm super pumped with B&D Outfitters. They did a great job with everything. Put us right on the deer. Like I said, we saw that deer. They had trail camera pictures of it, and the whole thing was within a 200-yard little bubble, and it was awesome. You know, it came out perfect. Came right to me. Made a good shot. Stand was awesome. They do a great job with the stands. Like, you may be sitting in there and thinking, oh man, I wish there was more shooting lanes, but they have them set up that way for a reason. They tell you that, you know, to make sure you have good, not too far shots. They know where the deer are coming from, you know, as much as you can predict a wild whitetail, but they know what they're doing. And it's awesome time. Really great. Couldn't ask for a better trip. I've been on other guided hunts. These are the best guys I've been with. Super nice. They don't treat you like a client. They treat you more like a friend, but I mean, they still respect you like a client and take care of you that way. So awesome trip. If you guys are looking for a Pike County, Illinois to get on a big whitetail with the bow, this is the place.